0.1. Lived experience is often nothing more than glorified anecdote. What the left dismisses as an anecdote, it will embrace as a lived experience. Personal experiences matter. They can be a source of useful knowledge, large lessons, and valuable ideas. But to read into them too deeply, to extrapolate a lesson too large, this is a terrible mistake. 0.2. See past charisma. If only we learnt to do that, it would not be such a dangerous thing. A force that gives one man control over a million minds. We must learn to recognize the effect of charisma. We must learn to look past it, to overcome the appeal, and judge that which matters the most. 0.3. The most underrated virtue is rationality. The most overrated virtue is loyalty. One should be loyal to reason above all else. Without this primary loyalty, the loyal will find themselves the servants of the immoral. 0.4. A headline states, Japanese whaling, a sacred tradition or an outdated cruelty. The answer is very simple. Both. It is perfectly possible for something to be both a sacred tradition and an outdated cruelty. A great many things are these things simultaneously. Many sacred traditions are outdated cruelties. Many outdated cruelties are sacred traditions. 0.5. Rational thought is limited thought. Rational thought is controlled thought. Rational thought is thought regulated by reason. Rational thought is not chaos. Rational thought is the highest form of order. 0.6. Community, our source of self-knowledge. Through knowing others, we come to better know ourselves. Few things enhance self-knowledge quite like knowing the other. 0.7. Sentience, the capacity for pain and pleasure, gives life its meaning. Meaning is inconceivable in a world without pain and pleasure. Meaning would die without pain and pleasure. If ever we overcome our sentience, we will be without meaning. For what is meaning if not a high pleasure? 0.8. Never overestimate the wisdom of the great philosophers. All of them disagree strongly, which means that many of them must be wrong. To revere one is to revere the destruction of another. They cannot all be right. If some of them are right, many of them are wrong. 0.9. The solution to so many of the problems of masculinity is the reconceptualization of masculinity. In the world of social roles, interpretation is the difference between the desirable and the detestable. 1. Democracy encourages people to question authority. To encourage such a thing is immensely important. 1.1. Some leftists care about the oppressed so deeply. They will stomp over the oppressed to get their hands on the oppressor. Some tribalists care for their in-group so deeply. They will send them all to their slaughter to slightly damage the out-group. Some nationalists care for their nation so deeply. They will see it destroyed to get revenge against another nation. So much that is portrayed as love is displayed as hate. 1.2. Always remember the world that we could have. Potential futures become utopian when we give up on them. 1.3. Some advocate thoughtlessness. Some argue against thought itself. One cannot argue for such a worldview because that would require that one think more deeply and therefore abandon it. Nobody can argue for the conclusion because to argue for it is to abandon it. Nobody can judge the value of this worldview without first abandoning it. It is absurd.